Hello, my name is Bisbeast. You are here for Dread and Despair Incarnons. So starting off, I'm going to be using Styanax. His passive grants a very minor increase into critical chance, and you can see in the top right it's only 4%. It stacks additively, so it's not going to influence any sort of results you'll see on screen. Starting off, we're going to go over the Dread. So Dread, like normal, headshots to charge the Incarnon. Second evolution, I chose the increased damage by 50, and I'm unsure if this has been fixed by the time this video goes out or later, but the on-hit increasing damage and fire rate stacking is currently bugged, but the base damage is still there. When it's fixed, this is definitely going to be the best choice. Third, as always, is utility, so I chose projectile speed. And fourth evolution, I chose to increase the crit damage by plus 1x, making it a 6.6 multiplier instead. Here's the build I'll be using, going over it quickly. Galvanized Scope for increased critical chance on headshot, and headshot kills, increasing it even further. We'll be utilizing a very special mod for this one. We'll be using Split Flights, plus 100% multi-shot and minus accuracy for 2 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. This is extremely useful with its Incarnon mode, and you'll see why. Galvanized Aptitude for the status chance and direct damage, because you'll always be proccing at least some amount of statuses. We're going to use Cryo Rounds and Infected Clip to get the highest amount of viral that we can. We are going to use Hunter Munitions, because we will always be critting once we have Galvanized Scope activated. Bladed Rounds, just for more crit damage. Vital Sense for the crit damage. And Vigilante Supplies, purely for the extra chance to enhance your critical hits. And for the Arcane, I chose to do Deadhead, just simply because with the Incarnon it makes it kind of easy to hit these, especially once you have Split Flights activated. Alright, so to start off, Dread is the same Dread we've always known. Just get the first shot to activate, second shot, there's Hunter Munition ticking in. You can also see Split Flights activating, times 4, so I'm shooting 4 arrows, all dealing slash or viral, and it does surprisingly well. But this is what the Incarnon form does. So with the Incarnon form, you get 20 shots, and what it does is it essentially fires out an Excalibur blade horizontally. You can see there. It has no terrain punch through, so if I shoot it through there, it's not going to go anywhere. But it has infinite bodily punch through. So if I fire it down this wave, they all get hit all the way to the end. And its damage is converted to heat. So now with the Incarnon mode, I'm simply going to fire down this lane only using the Incarnon form, and we'll see what happens when Split Flights gets activated. Keep in mind, Deadhead isn't even activated there, just because these are such high health enemies. They're dying from damage over time rather than the actual damage. So let's get some headshots off of these unarmored ones. Quickly charge it up with a couple shots. Re-Incarnon while we have the Deadhead buff. Split Flights activates. And it just starts to annihilate. Now that we have the Deadhead stacks, let's go ahead and shoot a headshot and get this going again. Activate Scope, activating Split Flights. Keep in mind, it's on every hit, so if you hit multiple targets, your Split Flights instantly becomes fully charged. And look at that. One shot is enough to pretty much kill because of the heat slash procs. So Dread Incarnon's actually pretty good, especially if you have a nice group of enemies. So I'll go ahead and show that off too. Okay, here we go. This is Dread Incarnon form, grouped up enemies, only one Deadhead stack, and crit activated. So the Dread Incarnon's actually surprisingly good, especially if you have high enemy density in your missions. Alright, now we will be covering the Despair. Despair, of course, normal Incarnon, headshots charge the alternate fire. The Evolution 2 I went with is increased damage plus direct damage per status type affecting the target, because we will be dealing a good amount of status with this build. Third, of course, is the utility slot. I chose reload speed because, fun fact, reload speed is directly triggered to how fast the Incarnon form transforms. And for the final evolution, I chose Critical Parallel, which increases the critical chance and damage by some amount. So looking at the build, I'll go over every part as usual. Galvanized Diffusion, multi-shot. I chose Pistol Gambit, so that way I don't always have to hit headshots using Galvanized Crosshairs. Yes, it'll give more, but the Incarnon form doesn't lend itself very well to that. Prime Target Cracker for the critical damage. Galvanized Shot for more of the gun condition overload. Lethal Torrent for more fire rate and multi-shot, because honestly these things need both of that. Using low rank status chance mods just to have that status always go, the 6060 Pistol Pestilence and Frostbite for viral damage, and then we are going to charge it up with a lot of heat damage using Prime Heated Charge, making a heat viral with 48% status. And the Incarnon form gives it a lot more heat, and you'll see why. And because of this, using Prime Heated Charge and its Incarnon form, I'm going with Cascadia Flare, as it gives more damage than any other arcane using this setup. So, Despair, as always. Quick firing kunai. Using this build, you know, it could make some short work of heavy targets. Like, look at this. Non-armor stripped, they only have corrosive projection on them for my Cyanax, and they're still going down pretty quick. So, the Incarnon form turns them into something similar to Agrit or Talons. You could shotgun them just like normal. They have a small AoE, which is entirely heat damage. Let's demonstrate that by shooting these next to the enemies. You can see that's sort of what I've centered the build around, is quickly gaining the Incarnon, using the fast reload speed to quickly swap over, and then continuing to deal damage. Another very good high-density weapon. It seems to be a theme with these two. Now we'll do a quick armor strip just to show you how effective these things are on non-heavily armored targets. And see there, if you have the multi-shot, one shot is all you need, and then quickly transform, and then now I'm just going to hold down the trigger. And for one final test, just going to unload 15 of these Despair into heavily armored targets. So, thanks to the heat procs and Cascadia Flare, they don't last very long.